Hi folks, well tonight I've got a really big job in the mill, as you can see, 12 inches by 8 and a bit. I'm going to face this, I've got to face that, and I've got, well, machine it all over. So here we are on the second cut. It's just cutting in that far corner, as you can see, and it's quite noisy, as you will hear. Not too bad, that's cutting okay. Yeah, I might have to dress that far edge off with a file because there's, I'm right on the limit of the Y-axis there to get the full width in with the cutter. I've got to maybe move this a little further over this way, but I'm not too concerned. It's very little, if any. You can just see over here, and there's a lot of distortion where the plate was guillotined there, so it's probably okay. Well, there you see the finished surface. It's just a little bit here that's not machined. I'll blend that in, and I'll also grind these down a little bit. The welding here is extremely hard. You can see it's very bright. It just seems to really be extremely tough stuff. Either way, I should have maybe heated everything up before I started machining it, but the cutters cope with it okay. It just makes a lot of noise when it goes on there. Next process will be to machine a datum along this edge so that I know that I've got a square surface here, and then I've got to think about machining this surface square to this. So that's the next step after I've got a datum to work from. It's a big piece of metal, really big. So I don't know how I'm going to machine that bit. I'll figure something out though. Well, there we see the setup for the next phase of the operation, which is, I didn't notice that there, to machine this face here. I'll just take this plate out of the way. These are just added to give the whole setup a bit more rigidity. I haven't got a decent angle plate to bolt this to. I'm using once again my 5C collet holder with a vertical face on that, through bolted on from 2 holes in the back here. So I'll go into Path Pilot and we'll set up to run a facing cut across here and dress that off. So we're just starting the first pass, and you can hear it's just touching the metal here, and it doesn't seem to be too bad in terms of being out of true. I can see from the cut over on the far corner that it's only going to take 2 passes of 10 thou, which isn't bad for welding work, considering how primitive the setup was for clamping everything together when I welded it. It's not bad. So no, it's going to take another one. There's a little bit in the corner here that's slightly off, but never mind. That's definitely the last pass. There's just a tiny bit here that hasn't been covered. That's 30 thou taken off altogether, which isn't too bad. I'll just stop the machine when it gets to here, and I'll dress the rough edges off with a file before I take it out of the clamping arrangement. Much easier that way. So I'm pleased with that. Next is to do the sides. So the triangle there. Well, that's the machine set up to do the sides of this thing. As you can see, a big job to mill, but it's getting there. One more side to do, and then maybe take some metal off these blocks that are holding those tubes in place, and once that's done I'll put it back in the machine and bore the holes through there. That's a bit of tube, so hopefully I've selected a decent size where I can get a hole right through without it touching the sides, but my welding is not that good, so there might be some difficulties. There we have the first side, well, the first of the two sides that to be done, nicely flattened off, and that face is done. The bottom face, just this lower face under here to do, and then boring out the holes for the other plate which swings. I'm just drilling the holes in this plate using Pathfinder conversational. I had a few problems with the drill, and I might have more problems when it breaks through, because this tube here is very slightly out of centre. Anyway, we'll see what happens when I've done it all. Hopefully it'll be fine. So here we are, just finishing the last of the holes in this thing. It seems to have gone okay. A few problems initially with the half-inch drill, which is a little bit blunt, and it kept slipping in the truck. I want to clean the truck out and reset everything, it was fine. So this is going well, and the holes seem to be reasonably in centre on the blocks of metal that are welded to the side. There's one, this hole here I thought would give trouble, but it didn't on the other side, so hopefully it won't on this. There you can see the finished angle plate type thing that I'm making. And I'm just finishing drilling this, which is going to be the table that rides up and down, or hinges from one of the two lower holes. I had a few problems with a blunt spot drill. It had been chipped, however I managed to get it resharpened again on my tool and cutter grinder without too much trouble, and we'll start and see what it goes like. I'll just hit the start cycle and we'll see how it goes. And the first thing I notice is I've still got the machine set in manual. Now you see this is with an end mill. I've had to cut the speed right back because there's very little lateral support on the lug. However, it cuts through, it's okay. It's a self-sharpened one as well. Probably not the best, but it's working. And I know it got through the holes at the bottom alright, so I'm happy with it. Just starting to knock out some links. I think this cutter has a chipped tooth. It's making a lot of noise for milling quite off metal. I might just pull it out and check it and resharpen it. It seems to be cutting okay certain times. Anyway, there's one link there, there's a holder ball at this end, and that's the long hardware link, and it fits onto, it will go onto here, between this hole here and this hole here, and provide a means of locking the table at different angles. And there you see the table. That's it in a fully down position. I can mount it flat on the table from here, so I can tilt the table up here. I might cut away some of this to get a little more, although I can always take the rod off, I suppose. Yeah, I can mount it two different ways, so it's quite versatile really, and it's fairly solid. We'll see what it's like in action. I'm only going to be using it for doing some drilling work, which won't put a great deal of load on it. So there you can see what I've been aiming at. Rotary table will go on here, and it can be adjusted for up and down on this slotted link. Obviously the link's a bit short to get any higher than this angle, well, it will go a little bit higher, maybe another 5 or 10 degrees. The main thing for me is I want to be able to mount it in the vertical position with it set back this way, so that the axis of the table is pointing up over. Sorry, I want it to, let me get this right. I do want it to go that way, and it'll go the correct amount that I need to. The other, yes, I do need it to go that way, sorry. I do need it to go that way because I'm doing some hubs and the spokes come in at this sort of angle, so I need to be perpendicular. Okay, well, I finally finished making my adapter, my adjustable angle plate, so that I can mount the 8-inch rotary table, which I bought when I first got the mill, in this position, and also alter the tilt on the table. This is it here. It's pretty basic, but it can be mounted vertically and it can be mounted in the horizontal position. And by the length of these links is not very long. However, if I made some longer ones, I could, you know, increase the angle of tilt by quite an amount. The reason I made it is I've got a job which I need to drill down at an angle into the holes in it at an angle, and the only way I can think of doing it is putting it in a table that I can tilt. As you can see, it's quite heavy, but it tilts back up easily. And if I just nip up one of these bolts before it drops, and then you can see it's now tilted back at about 15 degrees, maybe it's a little more. It might vibrate a bit, but for drilling and light milling it'll be fine. It's just an alternative to the tilting rotary, which yes, I'd love to have, but I can't afford. I suppose if you made this from castings and got it all rigid and put more support on the plates, you might get a bit more rigidity. Also, if you thicken these arms out, which I could do, made them a little bit stiffer on the hinge points, but basically it's fine for what I want. This shaft runs right through here, and there's a I don't know if I can get it in there, but you can see a tube runs along the bottom, and that allows me to tighten that up without bending the angle plate. It's all constructed from 10mm steel. If I had some thicker section it would be stiffer, but it's all around it's quite a weight. It's a hell of a weight lifting this rotary onto it, but once it's on there it looks okay. The next thing will be to try it out, so once I get round to doing that, I've got a few drawings to make and so on, and get some things approved before I go for it. When I do, I'll take some shots of it in action. Okay, well, I've finally got the adapter plate that I made fitted onto the front of the rotary, and if I just put this camera on your tripod, well, I can see there, this is the adapter. It's a screwed adapter, and this is the deal that I'm going to be, a lot come up that way, so I've got to be able to swap the head or the angle of the rotary table, and this was the only method I could think of doing that with, and I think that looks pretty good. I think it'll be sound enough for what I want to do. I'm well pleased with that, so there we go. One of the things I forgot to point out was the position of the stepper motor on the 8-inch early Tormach rotary table. If you mount it vertically, you have to mount it on this side because it will foul the switchboard, and that's one of the reasons I believe that Tormach came up with the super switch with this method that I've opted here. My centre height's quite a lot higher. If need be, I could always try and mount this a little bit lower on that plate, but I don't think that's necessary. I think it's fine the way it is. So that's the story.